Welcome to the Action for Access podcast. Action for Access is a project that is supported by ARISA. ARISA stands for Advancing Rights in Southern Africa. The project is implemented by the Namibia Media Trust in partnership with the National Federation of People with Disabilities in Namibia. This is going to be a series of podcasts. Some of the topics that will be discussed during the interviews will be access to information, whether it's in the media space or any other public setting, access to education or inclusive education to be exact, and also gender participation and representation of people with disabilities in different entities that influence policy making. Welcome to another edition of the Action for Access podcast. My name is Orben Muluti. Today I'm joined in the studio by a friend of mine, Miss Rozaline Joseph. Miss Rozaline Joseph is, I should get this right, it's quite long, eh? So you are the executive committee member of Commonwealth and Children with Youth with Disabilities, right? And also a board member in the National Youth Council of Namibia.
Yeah.
So we'll speak on the analysis of gender and age, as well as gender representation and participation in policy making. So I'll go straight to my first question. As a woman in a number of leadership roles, do you believe enough is being done to have equitable representation in positions that can influence policies?
In regard of women in position?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Not a woman in general, a woman with disabilities.
a woman with disabilities.
Yes.
Okay, no. No, because I think that most policies when it comes to people with disability are actually not designed around the issues directed to women with disability, just because usually people that represent women with disability in these high positions or that influence the policies are people that are not disabled. And most of the time it comes from a perceived point of view than actually tackling or those policies benefiting women with disability. So there's not enough representation just because it's perceived maybe issues or challenges concerning women with disability.
So basically, generally, I'm getting a feel that you were saying that there is no self-representation of women with disabilities. You get these people who do not have disabilities in positions that were supposed to tackle or sort of influence policy to benefit the ordinary person with disability, or in this case, a woman with disability.
Yes.
All right. The next question would be, so do you think people with disabilities have an impactful sort of in leadership position? Do you think that they can impactfully influence decision making, or whether it's in terms of formulating policies from scratch, or maybe looking at the ones that are currently there and making them inclusive for people with disabilities? And I know we're now speaking on women, but maybe you can touch a bit also on women, but also in general people with disability. I ask this question because we know that there is stigmatization towards people with disability and discrimination. So do you feel like, as a woman in a boardroom, and you yourself are a board member at different positions, do you feel like when you are making your voice known, are you taken seriously as a person of disability, or are they saying, this one is just here by virtue of somebody needs to represent them, so but they are not really important?
Yeah. I think people should understand that people with disability, number one, are very capable of spearheading their issues. I think that even myself personally, as you said, a board member, is that things that you experience is, number one, undervalue of your capacity. Let's start there. I think when you speak up people think that what you have to say it's not important, or maybe you speak about something which is important or is a contribution, and somebody else says it just maybe in different words, but it's like people rather recognize what somebody else said, but sometimes you're like, but I just say that, but this person spoke in maybe different words, but because they are not disabled, their opinion is more regarded than a person with disability. So they undervalue. But I also think that it is that people with disability can be influential when it comes to policies, because for myself, I always say that it's not the brain that is disabled. I mean, if I am sitting at a table and I fully have the capacity and skills, I can contribute to, for instance, a discourse, to a policy formulation, and all these things. So yes, we should be influential. I just think that we are not given the space for us to be able to impact and influence those policies that are established for the benefit of people with disability.
And I must agree with you also on the fact that sort of undervalue. People will undermine your capacity just by looking at you first and foremost. And also, like I alluded to earlier, most of the time people think we are at the table because somebody that looks like us or that has a disability has to be at that table.
Yeah.
So most of the time they think it's not you're not there because of your merit or your capabilities or your experience, which is also in many cases true, because we are not here saying that all people with disability are capable of sitting. They are capable, but currently at the moment, there are those who do not have the skills. There are those that do not have the experience.
Yeah.
But then in the same vein, there are also those that do have the skills, even probably more qualified than their counterparts without disabilities. So we are not painting a picture to say that everybody currently now is skilled and trained and experienced enough to sit at the table and discuss high-level policy
Yeah.
conversations.
Sorry, just to add to that,
Yeah.
I think also the fact that we are minimized or limited by when you are at a table or at any event or in any institution, people regard you or limit you that you probably only know when it comes to the issues of disability, and that they don't outlook that, oh, maybe I'm a computer person, or maybe, as you said, I'm a researcher, or maybe any other thing, but they just will directly think like, oh, maybe you're just interested, or you can only contribute to issues of disability, which is actually limiting if you look at it.
Exactly, because for example, like by virtue of you sitting on the National Youth Council board, even if it is you are there for so-called as a representative for youth with disabilities,
Yeah.
it does not limit your participation to just youth with disabilities, right? You're just bringing that perspective of a youth with disabilities.
Yeah, I mean, you can contribute to other issues that youth are going through.
Yes, you can and should, because you are equally a board member as everybody else.
So it's not like you're just sitting there for the representation of, because at the end of the day, when you are a board member, it's also, you have to cater to the whole youth. It's not just that. I think it's just for you to give perspective on that area, but not only on that area, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Before I go to the next question, I just want to ask on because we are speaking about representation, not only in the sense of women in policy making or decision making bodies, but we're also speaking about people with disability in general. A very exciting thing that I picked up from your current board of directors at the National Youth Council is that, so although you were appointed as a representative for youth with disabilities, we also have another woman who is a youth with a disability. your colleague Vivian, who is also visually impaired.
Yeah.
In fact, she's been in in the OPDs,
Yeah.
for a while now. But she did not come from this representative of youth with disability aspect.
Exactly.
She was not nominated in that sense, but she is a youth with disability, and she's a woman for that matter.
Yeah.
So how interesting is it that although we can have somebody who was appointed from that angle, we can also have other women who have penetrated through the so-called conventional structures, because she was elected at the Congress, right?
Yeah.
So how exciting is that? Do you think maybe it goes a long way because many people, even her colleagues,
Yeah.
they did not know she had a disability. When I was talking with some of them that I knew, they said, Vivian has a disability. And so just by virtue of her going to run and actually beating all the competitors at the Congress, some of those things, they're like, you are lying, she does not have a disability. So what's your take on that?
I think that just comes to show that we, as people with disability, we can also, like, as you said, penetrate the system. It just means that she had to go through a whole campaign. And probably through that campaign, she has to convince people that, she can take this position on the board, not only as a person with disability, but as I'm saying, taking away the disability aspect and just saying that, you know what, I'm a capable individual of sitting on this board because I know maybe what I can cater to you people as a representative of youth with disability. And that's actually amazing because it means that she's just not limited to a person with disability, that I'm not just like, let me say, oh, Vivian, we are here to just talk about disability issues. It means that there are youth that she stood before to campaign for herself that are not also disabled. And I think that this is the way forward that society should move to, whereby you judge me by my capabilities. What is it that I can give to you? Or what is it that I am capable of bringing forward? What is my potential as an individual before my disability?
Exactly. And that's why also, and this is not also to take away from your process. I mean, of course, you had to also go through a certain level of, you had to achieve things before you were considered for your appointment. So her being elective is wonderful, and it's another way of how we can take away the disability aspect. And that's why it is always important when we are dealing with terminology. If we refer to a person with disability, first we say person and then disability, right? So if you say disabled first and then person later, it's like you are considering the disabled before you consider the person, right?
Absolutely.
So in that sense, we always have to first look at the aspect of the person. The disability only comes if I need a ramp and there is no ramp. And now you have activated this disability. But before that, if there's a ramp, there's everything. I can just move to the boardroom the same way as everybody else and participate the same way. If I'm a person with visually impairment or low vision, just give me larger print and I'm able to participate fully. And then we are all people in the boardroom. We are not anymore disability or not without disability. So this also, in the same vein, it will lead to my next question. So this is on the collection and the dissemination of disability disaggregated data. Because at National Youth Council level, right? I know the National Youth Council for birthing members of parliament, cabinet member, and other people who have gone to do very great things. And I'm not just limiting this to the National Youth Council, but even at Commonwealth level. But when we speak of policy now, we in Namibia, we make our own policies. We pass them, we not pass them, whatever the case may be. So that's why I'm focusing more on the National Youth Council. So what do you think as a policy influencer, right? Or someone that's in a position to influence policy or to make policy even. What do you think is the importance of having not only data that is based on one perspective. For example, Namibia has 500,000 people with disability. What do we do with this number? We have to know, because they don't have the same needs. Some are women, some are children, some are youth. You have wheelchair users, deaf people. They don't necessarily have the same needs. So when we speak of disaggregated data,
Yeah.
why do you think it is important, especially at the level where you see that?
Yeah.
We must not limit to say how many with disability are coming. Remember, like at the National Youth Week,
Yeah.
where we had people with disability that came, but then they did not have the same needs. And then later, some did not participate fully because we didn't have sign language interpretation. And I say this because if we would have disaggregated the number of people that attended there to say that how many wheelchair users, how many are deaf, how many are blind, then we would have known what provisions to put in place to properly allow them to participate.
Exactly.
What is the importance of disability?
I think you actually
disaggregated
answered
data?
your own question. Just
I want your very, very professional perspective here also.
Mine is that, especially when it comes to disability, is that the thing is you cannot have one solution for all. If that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Just because when we talk about disability, is that disability comes in different forms. And just how you highlighted and alluded that even when we went for the Youth Week, I think we were like, okay, anybody with disability or people with disability can come. But we really did not divide to see that, okay, this is a wheelchair bound, meaning that even the building that we are going to use there, they should be accessible to somebody on a wheelchair, which was, but I'm just making an example that, and then you find, as you say, the low vision that even when the program is provided to them, it should be in larger fonts. There should be braille also for those who are absolutely blind. There should be sign language interpreters. Okay, let me just say access to information, let me say. But now for us to ensure that each and every person is receiving or having the access to this information, we have to ensure that we have to cater it in a way that talks to their disability and to their need. So yeah, it is very important to have this type of information and not just pushing it under the umbrella of disability, because when we, for instance, are having or when we are establishing policies that surrounds people with disability, the importance is we should be aware of the division that, okay, this is women, what are their challenges as women of disability? This is wheelchair bound, what are their challenges? This is mentally
impaired.
Yeah, mentally impaired people, what are their challenges? And we have to try and cater to this people. And I think people don't understand that actually disability is very broad, and that when you put it in one seg, it becomes very problematic. Just as I say that one solution does not cater for all. So I think like, dividing or mentioning that they are this type of male, they are women, they are visually impaired, they are hearing impaired. This helps us to actually create policies that directly also influence those people and speak to their challenges and issues as a person with disability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So generally we are saying that when it comes to disability issues, there is no one size fits all.
No.
Right?
Absolutely not.
And this is the challenges this is the challenge that we have been having for the longest of time.
Yeah.
The Namibia Statistic Agency, they used to ask question, like in the last census.
Yeah.
They ask questions, do you have a disability? As general as that. But now they have incorporated what they call what we call the Washington Group questions. So these are questions that are properly studied by researchers, professionals, that can help you identify not only that this person has a disability, but also the type of disability they have. So these are sensory questions, like Do you have difficulties walking, climbing stairs? Do you have difficulty with self-care, washing all over? And then when you get answers like that, you'll be able to establish that, okay, to some extent, this is what disability this person has.
And that's very interesting because even on the government employment form, there is a section whereby I think it's the health questionnaire that also gives you the chance to identify yourself, whether you're a person with disability, and they also ask what type of disability. I'm just wondering, like, is this actually beneficial also just when we are, how is it also beneficial? Because I think that one of also the challenges that people with disability faces, as we all know, is when it comes to employment. And now there have been questions like some people with disability are asking, should I really fill in this section? Because it seems like it helps institution identify that this person has a disability, and then at the end of the day, they don't actually try to incorporate bio need as a disability, but rather to be like, okay, we are not dealing with this person with disability. I'm wondering, do they throw away the application? What do they actually do?
I mean, and that's a very good question, because very good observation, because that's something that we deal with many times as OPDs when we do advocacy and things. We realize that it is actually problematic for the employer to have a person with disability according to what they believe, right? Because they're like, now I'll have to purchase this and that to help accommodate this person. So imagine this scenario, right? And we are pressed for time, so we are going to conclude soon. But imagine this scenario: you are a person with disability, right? And you submit your form, you do not indicate that you have a disability. And then you maybe conduct the interviews via maybe Zoom, and then they.
Let's say it's written over the. Let me say you're just filling in an online application and you're answering the questions there, and they don't see that you're a person with disability.
Whatever the case may be. And now you are the most qualified, and in terms of the interview, you did the best. And now you have to come start work. Immediately when your new boss, or when they meet you in the office, they see maybe that you are a wheelchair user or a person with albinism. Trust me, they are going to be very surprised. They'll be like, what? So you are actually a wheelchair user?
I'm just wondering if somebody ever experienced actually filling in that form or having an interview, as you said, via Zoom, but like they cannot physically see you and you enter the building, but they already hired you. Like, do they fire you? What do they do? Like, or do they give you an excuse, or do they give you like a job that is lower than what you actually apply? It's just an interesting question.
Yes, very interesting. I think we touched quite on the topic. We touched on it nicely. You gave us comprehensive insight in what Governance Institute looks like with a person with disability in it, the struggles you face, and what you are trying to achieve in terms of ensuring and showing people that does not matter what type of disability I have, whatever limitations life throws at me, or whatever the case may be, I can still thrive in some of these very, very important positions. Thank you very much for making time. This has been the Action for Access podcast. For more information on the Action for Access project, check out Namibia Media Trust, Action Coalition Namibia, and the National Federation of People with Disabilities in Namibia across all social media platforms. Once again, this has been your host, Orben Muluti.